In the forgotten corners of Japan, there are places erased from every map, places that do not wish to be found. Mizugawa was one of them. A village swallowed by flood, buried by time, and silenced by those who feared its name. Yet beneath the soil, the water never truly dried. And when the well opens its eyes again, the past returns, whispering, waiting, remembering. Chapter 1: The Forgotten Town. Dusk was falling when the university van rolled into the misty mountains of northern Honshu. Fog wrapped around the trees like pale silk, swallowing the narrow road ahead. The road signs were rusted and unreadable. Kenji, a film student behind the wheel, squinted out the window. "Are we sure this is the right way?" Aiko, headphones around her neck, scrolled through her laptop. According to the old map, yes. Mizugawa, the town that was abandoned after the flood in 1968. There were 5 of them in total. Kenji, the obsessed amateur director, always chasing hidden truths. Aiko, the quiet editor, sharp-eyed and sensitive. Tatsuya, the fearless cameraman with a bad habit of going too far. Mina, a folklore student, fascinated by the supernatural. Ray, the sound guy, always joking, never serious, at least on the surface. They were shooting a documentary called Haunted Grounds of Japan, a student film about cursed places across the country. Their first destination, Mizugawa, a town that had been erased from every modern map. Fog the silence of Mizugawa. As the van turned the last curve, the fog lifted slightly. What awaited them was a dead town, collapsed houses, cracked stone walls overgrown with moss, and street lamps leaning like wilted flowers. No people. No birds. Only the sound of the wind dragging through broken roof tiles. Ray turned on his recorder, whispering, "Greater than, October 12th, 2023, we've reached Mizugawa, a place that officially no longer exists. No cell signal, no signs of life." Tatsuya panned his camera. Through the viewfinder, a faint white shadow darted between 2 ruined houses. Kenji froze. "Did you see that?" Ray laughed nervously. "Probably just missed." Still, none of them spoke for a while after that. They pitched their tents beside an old shrine. The wooden sign outside was half-rotted, the ink barely visible. "Greater than, Mizugawa no Soko no Zoku Nakare. Do not look into the depths of Mizugawa." They thought it was just an old superstition, something to add flavor to their footage. Skull the first signs. Night came. The fog thickened until their flashlights could barely pierce a few meters ahead. Aiko sat inside her tent, listening through her headphones. She heard it again. Drip, drip, drip. Steady, deliberate, not rain. It was coming closer. She stepped outside. The others joined her. Together, they followed the sound until they found it. A well. Ancient, ringed by moss and collapsed stones. The wooden planks covering it were soaked through, rotting. Ray leaned over, recording. The mic picked up something faint, a child's voice. "Greater than, Okasan, to Suketi. Mom, help me." Aiko's face went pale. That was a child. Mirror the wall of names. The next morning, Mina discovered a half-standing wall near the well. Dozens of names were carved into the stone, as if it had once been a memorial. At the very bottom, a line written in smeared red paint. "Greater than, when the moon is full, the chosen must go down the well." Ray tried to laugh it off. Probably just an urban legend. But as Aiko glanced into the well, the fog inside thickened into something like glass, reflecting her face back at her. And then her reflection smiled, though her own lips never moved. Chapter 2: The Old Map. Morning came, but Mizugawa never brightened. The fog clung to the trees like old breath, and sunlight struggled to pierce the gray veil. Everything smelled of wet earth and decay. Kenji adjusted the camera, filming the shrine's courtyard. His hands trembled slightly, not from cold, but from something else. He didn't want to admit that the silence here felt aware. Mina, crouched by a cracked stone statue, brushed away layers of moss and dirt. "Kenji," she called softly, "come look at this." It was a small wooden plaque, soaked and blackened by years of damp air. Carved on its surface was a strange spiral symbol, painted in fading black ink. Around it, ancient Japanese characters circled like a prayer. Some had been written over in red, still faintly visible. Greater than, Ido no Sokoni Kamio Shizumeyo. Appease the god beneath the well. Ray chuckled, his voice echoing unnaturally. Probably just superstition. Appease the god. Sounds like one of those Edo ghost stories. But Mina didn't laugh. She opened her notebook, flipping to a page of field notes. In old Tohoku villages, she whispered, they believed water gods demanded sacrifices. Sometimes, children, to keep the river calm. The air seemed to grow colder with her words. Shinto shrine. The scroll inside the statue. Aiko stumbled upon a half-broken Jizo statue by the shrine gate. When she brushed it, the stone head fell off and cracked open, revealing a small oilcloth bundle inside. She unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a hand-drawn map, old and yellowed, edges stained dark as if with dried blood. The map showed Mizugawa as it once was, narrow roads, rows of houses, and a shrine at its center. But what caught their attention was the red spiral symbol in the middle, inked over the spot where the well stood. Below it, scrawled in shaky handwriting, greater than Forbidden Zone, the bottomless well. Kenji squinted, noticing a faint line beneath the ink, barely legible. Greater than those who look down shall never return. A gust of wind swept through the shrine, almost tearing the fragile paper from Aiko's hands. Droplet the figure in the camera. That afternoon, as they reviewed footage from earlier, Tatsuya paused mid-frame. Wait, what's that behind you, Mina? The group leaned in. On the screen, between two cracked pillars, a small dark silhouette stood perfectly still, its head tilted slightly, as if watching them. Aiko zoomed in. It was a child, soaked hair clinging to its face, eyes hollow and black. No one remembered seeing anyone there. Ray forced a nervous laugh. Probably a reflection, or fog, right? But as Aiko replayed the clip, the figure didn't move, not even when the camera shifted. It was there, and staring right at them. Coffined the old woman's warning. Evening came early. The mist thickened again, turning the world to silver and shadow. As they packed their gear, a voice broke through the silence, hoarse and trembling. An old woman stood by the tree line, her kimono torn and muddy. Her eyes were pale like river stones. Why have you come here? She croaked. Kenji stepped forward carefully. We're making a documentary, ma'am, about this town's history. The woman's expression twisted. She shook her head slowly, murmuring words that sounded more like a prayer. Greater than, those who wake the deep water shall be swallowed. Before anyone could respond, she turned and vanished into the fog, her footsteps making no sound. Chapter 3. The first night. Rain began to fall again that evening, soft at first, then steady, a thin, cold curtain that blurred the ruined houses of Mizugawa. Wind whistled through broken tiles and rusted gutters, making a sound like distant bells. The group gathered inside a half-collapsed shrine hall. Their flashlights flickered, shadows dancing across walls stained with mold and ash. Ray adjusted the microphone, forcing a grin. First night in the haunted town. If we survive till morning, this will make a great opening scene. No one laughed. The only reply was the soft drip, drip, drip of water leaking from the roof. Cloud with rain voices in the rain. By 1 a.m., the storm grew heavier. The tents shuddered in the wind, the lanterns outside swung violently. Aiko sat alone, listening to the audio she'd recorded earlier that day. At first, she heard the expected sounds, footsteps, wind, a few muffled voices. Then, something else slipped in between them, a whisper. Faint but clear. Greater than, Aiko, look down, we're waiting. She yanked off the headphones, heart racing. Kenji, someone's messing with me. But Kenji and the others stared blankly. None of them had spoken. Tatsuya pointed toward the window. There's someone standing by the well. Skull the shape in the mist. Rain hammered the ground, The fog was so dense their lights barely reached 10 meters. Through the sheets of water, they saw it, a small silhouette standing still beside the well. Long, drenched hair, a thin white yukata clinging to the body. Ray whispered, "That could be the old woman." But when Aiko turned her flashlight directly on it, the figure vanished, not walked away, not faded, gone, as if the fog had swallowed it whole. They looked down and froze. Wet footprints, small as a child's, led from the well to the door of their shrine. Movie camera, the camera that moved itself. Later that night, they tried to sleep. Tatsuya set his camera on a tripod facing the door, just in case. Aiko woke to a faint click. The camera had turned on by itself. Its monitor glowed pale green, showing a shadow standing perfectly still in the doorway, tall, unmoving. She crept closer. The shadow's head tilted. Slowly, it raised its face toward the lens. The eyes were completely white. Then came the sound, drip, 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 but from inside the room. Aiko screamed. The others scrambled awake, shining lights everywhere, but nothing was there. When they checked the footage, the memory card was empty. Candle, the interrupted prayer. Mina trembled as she flipped through her old Shinto prayer book. She lit a candle and began to chant softly. The flame flickered, then blew out on its own. Smoke rose from the wick, curling upward, forming a faint spiral. The same symbol they'd seen on the map. Kenji whispered, "Have you noticed? Every time we mention the well, something changes around us." The room fell silent. Then, from outside, a voice began to sing, a woman's voice. Soft and melodic, carried by the rain. Greater than Mizu no Nakada, no more. Sleep beneath the water, sleep forever. Chapter 4, The Shrine of Offerings. Morning brought no sun, only fog. Thick as smoke, curling between the dead trees. The rain had stopped, but everything remained damp and silent. The air was heavy, and the smell of rot lingered in every breath. On the cracked stones around the well, tiny wet footprints were still visible, circling the rim like someone had danced there in the night. Kenji didn't speak. He quietly set up his camera, the lens trembling as he filmed the eerie stillness. A torn slip of paper caught his eye, plastered against the shrine wall. He peeled it off carefully. It was an ofuda, a paper talisman for sealing spirits, written in faded red ink. Half of it had been ripped away, leaving only 3 visible characters. Greater than Suijinofu, seal of the water god. Aiko's voice trembled. Someone tried to seal something, but it's broken now. Shinto shrine, the hidden shrine. Mina discovered a narrow, moss-covered path behind the main shrine. It wound deep into the trees until they reached a smaller structure, an inner shrine. The torii gate leaned at an angle, its red paint long peeled away. In front of it were dozens of tiny clay figures, no taller than a hand. Their faces were crudely shaped, but each one had something in common. Their eyes had been gouged out. Ray swallowed hard. Who the hell would make these? Mina's voice was almost a whisper. They're hitagata, human-shaped effigies used in ancient offerings. People believed the spirit of the sacrificed would live inside them, to appease the gods. No one spoke. Even the air inside the shrine seemed to hold its breath. Candle, the chamber of offerings. Inside the shrine, the air was stale and damp. The walls were blackened by smoke. On the altar stood a stone bowl engraved with wave patterns. Inside it, a dark crust of dried blood. Behind the altar hung a white cloth, stiff and stained. When Kenji shone his light on it, the image became clear. A child, bound at the wrists, half submerged in water, mouth open in a silent scream. Below, one single character carved deep into the wood. Greater than sacrifice. Ray stumbled back, stammering. It's just a ritual illustration, right? Just a symbol. But when Aiko touched the cloth, her hand came away sticky. It wasn't paint, it was real blood. Skull, the wall of bones. Behind the altar, the wooden wall sounded hollow when tapped. Tatsuya pried a board loose, and the stench that escaped made everyone gag. Inside the cavity were bundles of old offerings, broken dolls, locks of hair, and tiny bones bound with straw string. Mina read from the priest's notebook with shaking hands. Greater than, each year, on the night of the blood moon, a child was offered to the well. If no offering was made, the water would rise, and the water god would claim its own. Kenji's voice was low, hoarse. And now we've awakened it. Fogged the moving statues. As they turned to leave, Aiko glanced back. One of the small clay figures had tilted its head slightly. She froze. She blinked, and now every single statue had turned to face her. Perfectly aligned, their eyeless faces staring. Aiko screamed. Kenji spun around, the statues were still. Tatsuya checked his footage, his face draining of color. No, they moved. The camera caught it. On the screen, the figures shifted one by one, slowly turning their heads toward the lens, in perfect unison. Chapter 5: The Whisper Beneath the Well. The rain had returned, not the soft drizzle from before, but a heavy, relentless downpour that seemed to weep from the sky itself. The entire town of Mizugawa lay drowned beneath layers of mist so thick the world ended 3 meters away. Kenji sat in front of his laptop, shivering as he replayed the footage from the offering shrine. The images were blurry, the lighting unstable, yet in one frame, when he brightened the video, he saw it, a face reflected in the stone bowl. Eyes wide open. The water inside rippling though no one had touched it. Aiko leaned close, her voice trembling. There's something inside the water. Kenji nodded slowly. It's looking at us. Droplet the first whisper. That night, when the others slept, Ray couldn't. A sound was calling to him, faint at first, then unmistakable. Someone whispering his name through the wind. Greater than, Ray, come here. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside. The fog swirled, swallowing the light. By the well, a small figure stood, hair dripping wet, white yukata clinging to her thin frame. Aiko? He called out. No answer. The figure tilted its head slightly, inviting him closer. Each step squelched in the mud, mixing with the drip, drip, drip from the lip of the well. When he reached the edge, the voice came again, closer this time, right beside his ear. Greater than, Ray, look down. He leaned forward, and in the dark water, another face stared back at him. It wasn't his own reflection. Hold the disappearance. By morning, Ray was gone, his tent was open, and a trail of wet footprints led from his sleeping bag all the way to the well. Tatsuya shouted his name, but the only reply was his echo. Kenji checked the security camera they'd set near the shrine. At 2:43 a.m., Ray walked out of his tent, barefoot, and approached the well. He stood there motionless for over a minute. Then, something yanked him downward. There was no scream, no struggle, only a single violent pull. Aiko's voice cracked. We need to leave, now. But when she opened the GPS app, the screen was blank, no roads, no signals. Just a white void, flashing the words, location not found. Drop of blood, the sound beneath. By afternoon, Tatsuya prepared a microphone rig. He tied it to a rope and began lowering it into the well, determined to record whatever was below. Aiko protested, but Kenji insisted. If Ray's still alive, we had to know. The microphone sank deeper and deeper. Tatsuya frowned. It's bottomless. I can't feel the end. Then, static, and through it, breathing. Not wind, not water, human breathing. Faint and uneven. A moment later, a voice echoed through the headset. Greater than, Kenji, Aiko, come down. They froze. It was Ray's voice. But as the sound continued, it began to distort, shifting from Ray's tone to something else entirely. A child's laugh tangled with a woman's sob. Then came a sharp snap. The rope stretched taut, as though something below had grabbed it. Tatsuya shouted. It's pulling it down. Coffin the last image. Kenji scrolled through the footage frame by frame. One last frozen image appeared before the cable broke. Ray was standing inside the well, water up to his chest. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. Behind him, a small hand rested on his shoulder. And in the water beyond, dozens of faces floated just beneath the surface, watching. Chapter 6: The Diary of the Priest. The storm passed, leaving Mizugawa in a stillness more dreadful than the rain itself. The fog hung heavy, thick with the scent of moss and stagnant water. The forest seemed to breathe, every rustle sounding like a whisper from something unseen. Kenji and Aiko sat near the dying campfire, their faces pale. The others had gone silent. No one mentioned Rei anymore. Then Mina appeared from the shrine's back room, clutching a moldy wooden box she'd found beneath the altar. Her voice shook. "I found this, hidden under the floorboards." Inside was a book, bound in cracked leather. The pages were yellow, soaked and brittle, filled with cramped handwriting in Old Japanese. On the cover, "Greater than Suijinoku, the record of the water god." Scroll the first entry. Mina began to translate, her lips trembling as she read. "Greater than, year of Meiji 22. Month of the blood moon. The flood has taken 12 souls. The river will not come. The villagers beg for mercy. The god beneath the well demands another child." She paused, looking up. This was written by the priest who built the Mizugawa shrine. His name was Shinjiro. Kenji frowned. "He sacrificed children?" Mina flipped the page, her hands trembling. "Greater than, at first. We offered clay effigies, but the god rejected them. The water rose, swallowing the fields. Then I heard her cry, 'My daughter. Ayame. I have chosen her.'" Aiko gasped, covering her mouth. "He sacrificed his own daughter?" Mina nodded, tears in her eyes. "Greater than, he wrote that he couldn't stop her spirit from merging with the god. That her voice remained in the water. Skull the Priest's Guild." The next pages were stained with brown blotches, blood. Perhaps, the handwriting grew erratic. "Greater than, Ayame calls to me from the well. She says it is dark and cold. The god's hunger grows. Each 7 years, it seeks a new vessel. If I fail to seal it, it will consume the village." Kenji whispered. "So the priest created the seal, to trap both the god and his daughter together." Aiko looked toward the well outside, her voice barely audible. "And we broke that seal." Candle the ritual instructions. At the back of the diary, they found a folded parchment, covered in ritual diagrams and strange markings. One section was underlined with crimson ink. "Greater than, when the seal weakens, the god shall awaken. Its voice will echo through the chosen. To restore the seal, blood of the same line must be offered. If no blood remains, a living soul must take its place." Tatsuya clenched his jaw. "So that's why Rei was taken first," he heard her voice. "He was chosen." Mina shook her head slowly. "No, Rei was only the beginning." Coffin the child in the water. That night, unable to rest, Aiko wandered toward the well. The mist curled around her feet like pale fingers. She shone her flashlight into the darkness. For a moment, the reflection showed only her own face, exhausted, hollow-eyed. Then the surface rippled. Another face appeared beside hers. A child, her hair floating as if underwater, her mouth moving silently. Aiko froze, whispering, "Ayame?" The girl smiled. "Greater than, he promised to bring me home." And then, from deep within the well, a second voice echoed, a man's voice, filled with sorrow and madness. "Greater than, forgive me, my child." Aiko stumbled back, screaming. The others rushed out, but when they looked into the well, the water was calm, too calm. Chapter 7: The Water Curse. Morning never truly arrived in Mizugawa. The sky was a pale sheet of ash, the air heavy with the stench of damp soil and stagnant water. Every step sank into mud that squelched like rotting flesh. The rain no longer fell, but it hung in the air, alive. Kenji sat silently, staring at the broken torii gate. He no longer dared to look toward the well. The group had decided to leave, but when they tried, the road had vanished. In its place flowed a stream of black water, thick and slow, reflecting their faces in twisted, distorted forms. Dash dash dash. Droplet the first sign. Tatsuya was the first to feel it. He collapsed suddenly, clutching his head. It's in my ears, there's a voice inside. Kenji and Aiko rushed to him. Water began to leak from Tatsuya's ears and nose. Clear at first, then darkening. His skin turned pale, veins pulsing faintly beneath it, glowing faint blue, as if liquid was moving inside. Mina flipped open the priest's diary with trembling hands. Greater than, when the water god awakens, it will search for a vessel. Water will run within the veins of the chosen, until flesh and spirit become one. Aiko gasped. Beneath Tatsuya's skin, she could see thin streams twisting and swimming, as though the veins themselves were alive. Dash dash dash. Candled the voice in the mirror. That night, Tatsuya sat alone, staring into his camera lens. His voice was low and ragged. I can hear Rei. He's calling me from below. He says, I should join him. Aiko snatched the camera away, shaking her head. But when Kenji lifted a mirror to check the wound on Tatsuya's neck, he froze. In the reflection, behind Tatsuya, stood a small drenched figure, arms wrapped around his shoulders, face melting yet smiling. When Kenji turned, nothing was there. Dash dash dash. Skull the change. By midnight, Tatsuya's fever rose, his skin blistered, tiny bubbles forming beneath the surface. Every time he spoke, black water spilled from his mouth, and patches of fish-like scales appeared on his neck. Kenji shouted, We have to end this. There has to be a way. But Mina whispered, pale as death. There is only one way. The curse won't stop until the stolen soul is returned. Aiko choked out. What soul? Mina looked down at the diary. The priest's daughter, the one offered to the well. She's awake now, and she's searching for someone to take her place. Dash dash dash. Waved the rain of blood. At noon, the rain changed color, turning from gray to deep red. Each drop burned their skin, leaving marks that sizzled like acid. The smell of iron filled the air. Aiko looked up. The clouds had twisted into a spiral, the same symbol from the ancient map. Tatsuya stepped outside, eyes glowing faint white. I see her, the girl in the water. Kenji ran after him, but before he could reach him, Tatsuya knelt at the well. As the crimson rain fell, he smiled. It's beautiful down there. A small hand reached up from the water, grabbing his throat. One violent pull, and he was gone. The well bubbled, then stilled. A few seconds later, blood burst upward, scattering into the rain. Chapter 8: The Lost Footage. The red rain had stopped, but the sky above Mizugawa was no brighter. A pale green haze hung over the land, as if the entire town had sunk beneath an invisible sea. Kenji huddled in the dark shrine, staring at Tatsuya's camera. His hands were numb, his breath shallow. The camera was caked in mud, but miraculously, the memory card was still intact. When he checked the files, every video was corrupted, except one. A single clip. Footage_3am.mov. Aiko's voice trembled. That must be what he filmed before he disappeared. Kenji pressed play. Dash dash dash. Movie camera the recording at 3 a.m. The screen flickered, revealing the well, bathed in moonlight. The camera shook slightly with each of Tatsuya's breaths. Greater than, Rei, are you down there? No answer, only the steady sound of dripping water. Then, a faint splash. Tatsuya aimed the lens downward. The light illuminated the surface, still, dark, endless. For a brief second, a small hand broke through the water, rippling outward. Tatsuya gasped. What do you want from me? No response, only his reflection, until another face emerged beside it. Rei's. Pale, bloated, eyes open, mouth moving silently, as though whispering words only the water could hear. Kenji paused the video, voice barely steady. That's Rei, but he's not alive anymore. Dash dash dash. Skull hidden message. Mina replayed the footage in slow motion, scanning frame by frame. Suddenly, she noticed flashes of symbols appearing for a fraction of a second in the middle of the clip. She took screenshots, aligning each one until they formed a single sentence written in Japanese. Greater than Neo Kasa. Return the sacrifice. Aiko backed away from the screen, shaking her head. It's asking for the child the priest sacrificed. Mina's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, but that soul is part of the water now. There's only one way to give it back. Kenji's gaze hardened. Someone has to go down there. Mina didn't answer. She didn't have to. Droplet the last sound. The video continued. Tatsuya reached out and touched the water. At once, the well began to hum, a deep, resonant vibration that shook the camera. Then, a lullaby echoed through the speakers, the same melody that had haunted their nights. Greater than Mizu no Naka de Namor. Sleep beneath the water. Tatsuya's breathing grew ragged. He lifted his face toward the lens, his eyes glowing milky white. When he spoke, his voice was no longer his own, layered, wet, inhuman. Greater than, no one leaves. The water takes all. The camera fell. The last frame showed the ground rushing upward, followed by a loud splash. Then, silence. Candle the map of the dead. Just as Kenji stopped the playback, the laptop screen flickered. The video froze on a distorted image, the ancient map of Mizugawa, marked with the same spiral as before. But now, a new mark glowed faintly, a smaller circle north of the shrine. Beside a note scrawled in faded handwriting. Greater than, the true descent lies within the northern temple. Do not bring light. Do not bring words. Aiko's lips quivered. Descent? Descent to where? Kenji looked at her, eyes hollow. To the bottom, where it all began. Chapter 9. The Well Keeper. The rain had returned, thin and cold like threads of silver falling from an ashen sky. The air smelled of wet moss and something older, like water that had been trapped underground for centuries. Mizugawa was silent again, as though the world itself was holding its breath. Kenji, Aiko, and Mina followed a narrow path leading north, guided by the note found in Tatsuya's video. Their flashlights trembled in the fog. Every sound, the crunch of soil, the creak of trees, seemed amplified in the stillness. Then, through the mist, they saw it. A small wooden house, isolated and half sunken into the earth. Its roof sagged under years of decay. Above the doorway hung a wooden plaque, the words barely legible. Greater than Ido no Mamori, the guardian of the well. The door creaked open by itself. A faint smell of smoke and incense drifted out. Fogged the old woman. Inside, by a dying fire, sat the old woman they had seen days before, her back hunched. Hair white and tangled, kimono stained dark with mud. Her eyes were cloudy, almost colorless, yet when she spoke, her voice carried a strange clarity. I knew you would come, she said softly. Aiko whispered, You're the well keeper, aren't you? The woman nodded slowly. The last one. My duty was to keep the seal closed. But you've opened it. Her words struck the air like thunder, though her tone never rose. Scroll the history of the curse. She took a crumbling scroll from beside the fire. Unrolling it carefully, the ink had bled, but the drawings were clear enough. A figure kneeling beside a well. Hands bound, water rising around them. Long ago, the old woman began, the people of Mizugawa worshipped the water god. They prayed for rain, for harvest, for life, but the god became greedy. It demanded blood. Her fingers trembled as she traced the figure on the scroll. Every 7 years, a child was offered, but in the final year, the high priest, Shinjiro, refused. Instead, he gave his own daughter, Ayame. Her soul did not pass on. It merged with the god beneath the well. Kenji's voice broke the silence. So the priest sealed her, and the god, together? The woman nodded, tears welled in her pale eyes. With his own blood, and his descendants carried that burden, to keep the seal strong. I am the last of that bloodline. Coughed the warning. She rose unsteadily and shuffled toward the window. Outside, the well was barely visible through the fog, just a black hole in the world. It's awakening again, she said. When the blood moon rises, the water will overflow. The sacrificed souls will rise to claim the living. Aiko's voice shook. There must be a way to stop it. Please, tell us how. The old woman's hands trembled as she opened a wrapped bundle. Inside lay a rusted ceremonial dagger and a set of sealing charms burned around the edges. The seal can only be restored with the blood of the priest's line, mine. But I am too old. If not that, then the well demands something else, a willing soul. Kenji stared at the blade, his reflection trembling in the metal. So one of us must go down there. The old woman's silence was answer enough. Skull, the return of the rain. Without warning, the door burst open. A gust of wind extinguished the fire. The smell of wet earth flooded in. A voice drifted through the fog, high, soft, and painfully familiar. Greater than, Kenji, come outside. Aiko's face went pale. She knew that voice. She ran to the doorway and froze. Standing by the well was Aiko herself, or something wearing her shape. Her white yukata clung to her soaked body, hair plastered to her face. She turned slowly, her eyes empty black. Greater than, Kenji, the water is calling you. Chapter 10 The Return of the Drowned. That night, the rain never stopped. Each drop struck the ground like the slow beat of a heart. Merging with the black water that seeped from beneath the earth, the air was thick with decay, the smell of mud and rot clinging to their lungs. Kenji and Mina crouched inside the small wooden house, the one belonging to the old well keeper. The candle between them flickered weakly, painting their faces in trembling light. In the corner, the old woman knelt before the door, clutching the rusted dagger to her chest. Her lips moved in prayer, words too ancient to understand. Then came the sound. Step, step, step. Not footsteps on wood, but on water. The door began to shake. Mina's voice cracked. That's not the rain, is it? The old woman didn't look up. Her whisper trembled like the flame. No, they're coming back. Fog the drowned ones. Kenji pushed the door open a fraction. The light from his flashlight cut through the fog, and what he saw froze the breath in his throat. Dozens of figures stood half-submerged in the flooded street. Men, women, children, their skin was gray and bloated, their eyes open, blank and reflective like water. Their clothes clung to their twisted bodies, dripping black liquid that stained the ground. At the front stood a little girl, no more than 6, her head tilted, hair dripping down her face. She opened her mouth, and water poured out, yet she sang through it, a soft, haunting lullaby. Greater than, Namor, Namor. Sleep beneath the water. The old woman shouted. They are the ones sacrificed long ago. The water god has freed them, to claim new souls. Skull, the voice of the well. Suddenly, the ground shook. The walls of the house groaned. From beneath the floorboards came a deep rumbling, like thunder from underground. Then, Aiko's voice. It floated through the air, distant but unmistakable. Greater than, Kenji, it's beautiful down here, come see. Kenji's heart stopped. He turned toward the window, and there she was. Aiko stood in the rising water, her white yukata rippling gently. Her eyes were glowing pale blue. Mina screamed, "Don't look at her." But Kenji couldn't move. Something was pulling at him, a warmth in his chest, a whisper inside his head. He felt a touch on his shoulder, cold and soft. He spun around, no one was there. Only a wet handprint left on his shirt. Waved the flood. Lightning split the sky. The well erupted, spewing black water that gushed across the ground like veins spreading through the soil. The town drowned beneath the torrent. The old woman raised the dagger, chanting desperately. The seal must be closed. If not now, all will be taken. Before she could finish, a pale arm shot up through the floor and grabbed her throat. She screamed once, then vanished beneath the flood. Kenji grabbed Mina's hand, dragging her toward higher ground. But the dead were already walking, moving through the water, their mouths opening in silent moans. Among them, one face stared straight at him. Tatsuya. His skin was torn, his eyes blank, his voice gurgled through water. Greater than, you said you'd save me. Kenji choked out, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Mina pulled him forward. The seal. It's the only way. Dash dash dash. Hold the descent. They stumbled through the flooded streets until the well appeared again, no longer a hole, but a whirlpool, swirling violently under the red sky. Ghostly faces drifted within it, mouths whispering, hands reaching out. Mina shouted through the storm. We can't break the curse unless someone goes down. There's no more blood from the priest's line, only a living soul can take her place. Kenji stared at the water, clutching the dagger in his trembling hand. If I go, you must finish the ritual. Don't let this spread beyond Mizugawa. Mina shook her head, tears mixing with the rain. You'll die. Kenji gave a faint, broken smile. If I don't, everyone else will. From the whirlpool, Aiko's voice rose again, gentle, almost kind. Greater than, Kenji, we're waiting. Chapter 11 The Sacrifice. The moment Kenji stepped into the whirlpool, the world inverted. There was no sound, only falling. Endless and slow, like sinking through a dream that would not end. His body no longer felt weight, only pressure, the crushing embrace of water. Cold and alive. He opened his eyes. Beneath him stretched a world of green light in drifting shapes, as if he had entered another realm, the heart of the well itself. All around, shadows floated, the drowned, suspended in silence. Their hair waved like seaweed, their mouths open as if in eternal screams. Kenji reached out and touched one of them. The corpse turned, it was Rei. The boy's lips moved, forming words Kenji could not hear. Then, faintly, inside his head, greater than, we're all chosen, forever. Dash dash dash. Waved the child beneath. Deeper still, a faint glow pulsed from below, the color of the moon reflected in water. Kenji swam toward it, each stroke heavier than the last, until the light took shape. A little girl sitting at the bottom of the well, her long hair floating around her like dark silk. Before her rested a stone bowl, overflowing with black water. When Kenji approached, she lifted her head. Her face was pale, eerily calm, a reflection of Aiko, yet younger. Greater than, you came to take my place? She asked. Voice echoing inside his mind. Kenji's breath caught. You're the priest's daughter. Ayame. She smiled, small and broken. Greater than, they called me the child of water. They promised to bring me home, but they never did. Dash dash dash. Skull the water god. The ground trembled. From the shadows behind the girl, a shape began to rise, vast, fluid, formless. The water around it vibrated, its body made entirely of liquid and light. Two hollow eyes glowed faintly blue. The voice that followed was not human. Greater than, you carry the blood of men. You have entered what belongs to the water. You cannot leave. Kenji tightened his grip on the dagger. Blood leaked from his palm, spreading crimson into the current. I came to end this. The water god roared, a low, bone-deep sound that made the drowned twist and convulse. Hands reached from every direction, dragging at Kenji's limbs. His lungs screamed. Dash dash dash. Candle the prayer above. Above ground, Mina knelt beside the well, holding the priest's diary open. Her voice was hoarse from shouting. She began to recite the final passage, the words of the sealing ritual. Greater than, blood of man, mixed with sacred water, shall bind the gate between worlds. The willing shall become the seal itself. She screamed into the wind. Kenji, let your blood fall. You're the only one who can finish it. Dash dash dash. Droplet the union. Deep below, Kenji heard her. He raised the dagger and drove it into his own chest. Blood poured out, swirling into the water. The black turned red, glowing from within. Ayame's eyes widened, light blooming across her face. The water god howled, its form beginning to crumble. The drowned dissolved into mist, their bodies breaking apart into streams of light. Kenji reached out to the girl. You can go home now. She reached back, her small hand cold and trembling. Greater than, thank you, for remembering me. Their fingers touched, and the light consumed them both. Dash dash dash. Fogged the surface. On the surface, the well erupted in a column of red light. Then, silence. The water stilled, clear, pure, untainted. Mina stared into the depth, tears mixing with rain. Floating on the surface were two things: the ceremonial dagger and a white ribbon, Icos. A breeze swept across the shrine, carrying a whisper so faint she thought she imagined it. Greater than, it's over now. Chapter 12: The Descent. 10 years passed. The town of Mizugawa no longer appeared on maps. The area had been declared a restricted zone, sealed off by steel fences and government warnings. The officials said the soil was unstable, that the ground might collapse again, but no one really believed it. Every year, on the same day, the anniversary of the flood, villagers from nearby towns whispered that they saw a mist rising from the forest, glowing faintly blue under the moon. And sometimes, from within that mist, came the sound of a child humming. Fog the return. Mina stood at the edge of the restricted zone, holding a lantern and a small bundle wrapped in white cloth. She was older now, her hair streaked with gray, her eyes hollow from years of silence. In her hands was the priest's diary, the one Kenji had used before vanishing. She'd read it countless times, searching for answers, or perhaps for forgiveness. Greater than, the seal shall hold as long as the willing remains within the water. One line read, but the god does not forget. And now, the dreams had returned, dreams of Kenji calling her name, his voice distorted by water. Every night, she woke with her clothes damp, her ears filled with the sound of dripping. She knew what it meant. The seal was weakening again. Droplet the path to the well. The forest greeted her with silence. Each step echoed between the trees, sinking into the soft, waterlogged soil. The old shrine was gone, reduced to a skeleton of beams and roots. Only the torii gate remained, leaning, broken, yet defiant. Mina followed the same path Kenji once took. The fog grew thicker with every step, until the ground beneath her glowed faintly blue. And there it was. The well, perfectly still, as if it had been waiting. No moss grew on its stones. No birds sang nearby. Only the faint reflection of the moon trembled on its surface. Candle the voice below. She lit the lantern and set it beside the well. Its light danced over the black water. Then, a ripple. Greater than, Mina. The voice was soft, echoing from deep below. She froze. Greater than, it's me. Her heart stopped. Kenji? The voice came again, closer now. Clearer, yet too calm. Greater than, the seal won't hold forever. The god stirs again. If it wakes, all will drown. Mina clutched the diary against her chest. Tell me what to do. Silence. Then, almost like a sigh. Greater than, come down. You know the way. The surface of the water shimmered, reflecting stairs spiraling downward into the depths. Skull the descent. Without hesitation, Mina stepped into the well. The water was icy, but it did not resist her, it parted, drawing her in. Each step echoed like a bell toll, fading into nothingness. The deeper she went, the brighter the water glowed, soft blue light illuminating walls covered in symbols. The same seal marks from the priest's diary. When she reached the bottom, the world opened into a cavern, vast, silent, endless. And at its center, she saw them. Kenji and Ayame, standing hand in hand, their forms half made of light, half of water. They looked peaceful, until Ayame lifted her head. Her eyes were empty. Greater than, he's fading, she said softly. The god takes him piece by piece. Kenji turned to Mina, his expression calm. It's hungry again, I can't hold it much longer. Drop of blood the choice. Mina fell to her knees, tears mingling with the water. Then I'll take your place. Kenji's face twisted with horror. No, you'll be trapped forever. She smiled faintly. So are you, but this time, let someone else go free. Before he could stop her, she pulled a small knife from her sleeve, the same ceremonial blade. She whispered the final prayer from the diary, the one written in blood. Greater than, let my soul seal the gate. Let my breath bind the god. And let my memory fade from the earth. Then she pressed the blade into her palm and let the blood drift into the glowing water. The cavern trembled. The walls split open with blinding light. The water roared, and Mina vanished within it. Chapter 13: The Forgotten Prayer. 50 years passed. The forest that once hid Mizugawa had grown dense again, roots curling around forgotten shrines. Rivers winding through what was once a town. The world had moved on. Roads were built, villages grew, and people forgot that anything had ever existed beneath those trees. But legends linger. Old men in nearby towns still warned children not to enter the forest at night. They said the air was too still, the water too clear, and sometimes, if you listened closely, you could hear a woman's voice praying below the earth. Fogged the excavation. A team of engineers arrived one summer, young, confident, unaware. They were building a new highway to connect the northern valleys. Among them was Sora Tanaka, a civil engineer with a fascination for forgotten places. He had heard the rumors of Mizugawa, an entire village swallowed by water and time, and couldn't resist. On the third week of digging, his workers uncovered a strange slab of stone, perfectly circular, cold to the touch even under the noon sun. It was engraved with an old inscription, nearly erased by time. Greater than Suiji no Nemuraseyo. Let the water god sleep. Sora frowned. An old well marker, maybe? That night, he stayed behind, sketching the markings by flashlight. The forest around him was unnaturally quiet. Even the crickets had stopped. When he touched the center of the stone, a thin crack spread outward, and water began to bleed from it. Dark and slow. Skull the forgotten words. 2 days later, workers began to complain of strange dreams. They heard water dripping, even when the ground was dry. One claimed to see a child standing near the machinery, watching them silently. Sora dismissed it as stress, until he dreamed it too. In his dream, he was standing at the edge of a vast, black well. A voice whispered from below, soft and trembling. Greater than, why did you wake us? He woke to find his shirt soaked, not in sweat, but in water. The next morning, the excavation site had flooded overnight, though there'd been no rain. The slab they had uncovered was gone. In its place was a hole, bottomless and still. Droplet the prayer beneath. Sora called for help, but the nearest radio tower had gone dead. When he checked the perimeter, he found wet footprints leading from the pit, small, childlike. He followed them into the woods until he reached a clearing he didn't recognize. There, half buried in moss, stood a ruined torii gate, broken, leaning, its paint long faded. Beneath it, a stone tablet lay shattered, with only a few legible words carved deep into its surface. Greater than, seal, blood, willing? Suddenly, he heard chanting. Faint, distant, familiar. He turned toward the sound. Between the trees, a woman in white was kneeling by a pool of water, her hair black as ink, her face hidden. Greater than, water must sleep, she whispered, over and over. Water must sleep. Sora took a step closer, and she stopped chanting. Slowly, she turned. Her eyes glowed faint blue. Greater than, but you woke it. Waved the awakening. The ground shuddered. A wave of cold air swept through the forest, and from beneath the soil came the sound of rushing water, thousands of voices whispering all at once. Sora stumbled back. The woman was gone. Where she had knelt, the ground had split open. From the crack, black water gushed upward, carrying with it fragments of bones, dolls, and the remnants of old offerings. The air filled with the smell of iron and rot. Sora ran, but no matter which way he turned, the forest twisted back toward the same clearing, and the same hole. From its depths, a child's laughter echoed. Then, a voice, soft, familiar, and sorrowful. Greater than, it never sleeps forever. Chapter 14: The Flood of Shadows. 2 weeks after the Mizugawa excavation vanished from official reports, heavy rain began to fall across northern Japan. It didn't stop. Day after day, it poured, constant, unbroken, as if the sky itself had opened and forgotten to close. The government called it a seasonal anomaly. Locals called it the water's revenge. Cloud with rain, the first omen. In the small mountain town of Hanyu, a school bus drove along a flooded road at dawn. Children pressed their faces to the fogged windows, whispering about the river that had risen overnight. Then, one of them pointed outside. "Sensei, there's someone in the water." The driver slowed. Through the sheets of rain, he saw a woman in a white kimono, standing in the middle of the road, unmoving. Her hair hung over her face, soaked. He honked. She didn't move. The bus lights flickered, and when he looked again, she was gone. Only wet handprints remained on the glass of every window. Droplet Tokyo rain. In Tokyo, the flood was only a whisper at first, strange weather patterns. Reports of water rising through subway tunnels. News anchors joked that Tokyo is sinking again. But by the third night, something was wrong. Security footage from the Shinjuku underpass showed water flowing upward from the concrete. A maintenance worker who went to investigate was never found. Only his boots remained, still dripping. The next day, residents began reporting voices through the drains, faint sobbing, sometimes laughter. City officials blamed old pipes. But one engineer, Kato Senda, refused to accept that. Candle the engineer. Kato had grown up near Mizugawa. His grandfather had told him stories about a god that slept beneath the water, and how it always wanted more. When he heard about the flooding and the vanished crew, something in him stirred. He drove to the restricted zone alone. The forest was half submerged. The air shimmered with heatless mist. He found the old excavation site, now a lake. In the center, the water spun slowly, forming a perfect spiral. As he stepped closer, a whisper brushed his ear. "Greater than, you carry their blood." He froze. Beneath the surface, a face stared up at him, pale, familiar. Sora Tanaka. Kato stumbled back, but the reflection didn't move. Instead, it smiled. Skull the rising. That night, Tokyo drowned. Rain fell harder than ever before, overwhelming dams and rivers. The Sumida River burst its banks. Entire subway lines disappeared under black water. But those who saw it swore it wasn't just water, it moved like a living thing. People trapped in apartments near the river reported hearing footsteps in flooded hallways. Some saw faces in their bathtubs, pale and watching. And when emergency lights failed, the streets glowed faint blue, the same color as the Mizugawa mist. In one viral video, recorded just before the power cut out, a woman screamed from a high-rise balcony. "Greater than, the water's rising from below." Seconds later, the building's foundations collapsed into darkness. Fog the whisper over the city. By dawn, Tokyo was silent. Helicopters circled over what had become an endless inland sea. Through the fog, the tops of skyscrapers looked like islands. And in the still water below, shapes moved, human, slow, weightless. A faint melody echoed across the drowned city. A lullaby no one remembered teaching, no one remembered learning. Greater than, Mizu no Naka de Namor. Sleep beneath the water. Chapter 15, The Last Reflection. 49 years after the great flood of Mizugawa, the land had changed again. What was once a drowned city had become a forest, wild, silent, and lush. Nature had reclaimed everything. The government renamed it Mizugawa Rebirth Reserve, a protected area where no one was allowed to dig or build. They said it was to preserve the ecosystem. But those who lived nearby whispered another reason. They said the water still moved underground. They said, on nights of the full moon, a lake of light would appear in the heart of the forest, and if you looked closely, you could see faces in the glow, smiling. Fog the photographer. Kato, a young urban explorer and photographer, didn't believe in curses. He hunted abandoned places, seeking the perfect shot, something real, something that told a story. One summer night, he entered the forest with his camera and drone. The signs warning, "Water Restricted Zone," were covered in moss. Barely readable. He followed a narrow path through the fog until the trees opened into a wide clearing. At the center was a shallow depression in the earth, a perfect circle. No lake, no water, only mist that shimmered as if it were breathing. Kato set up his tripod. "Beautiful," he murmured, "like the ground remembers. Camera with flash the image." The first long exposure shot came out strange. Through the mist, he saw something that wasn't there, a red Torii gate. Faint but clear. He frowned, adjusted the focus, and took another. This time, a girl in a white kimono appeared beneath the gate. Her hair hung wet over her face. Her bare feet rested on the mirrored surface of the fog. Kato's hands trembled. He turned his head, no one was there. But when he looked back at the camera's screen, the girl had lifted her face. She was looking directly at him. Skull. The lens turns. The camera began to hum, its screen flickering. Without him touching it, the lens rotated, slowly, deliberately, toward the center of the clearing. On the display, a reflection formed in the mist, water appearing where none existed. From its surface rose three figures, a man, a woman, and a child. The man spoke, his voice distant but clear. "Greater than, another has looked down." The image distorted, and the camera shut off. Kato froze. He could hear it now, the soft sound of dripping water. Though the ground was dry. He looked down at the camera lens and saw something impossible. In the reflection, he was standing by the lake, not the clearing, and a child's hand was wrapped around his. The reflection smiled. He did not. Wave. The cycle begins again. Wind rushed through the clearing, whipping the fog into spirals. The ground softened beneath his feet, turning to mud, then to water. A voice, a child's, whispered beside his ear. "Greater than," again the water wakes, again the dream begins. He turned, and saw it. The well, ancient and wet, rising from the ground as if reborn. Its mouth was dark, bottomless. The camera slipped from his grasp, rolling to the well's edge. Through the lens, the reflection stared back, Kato, standing at the rim, smiling. "Greater than, welcome back," the reflection said. "The new keeper." The ground gave way. A splash. Then silence. New moon epilogue, the bottomless well. At dawn, forest rangers found Kato's camera, half buried in the mud. There was no sign of him. Inside the memory card was a single video, 3 minutes long. The first frame showed a lake shining under the moonlight. The last showed a wooden wall, marked with fresh red letters. "Greater than, Ito wa nemuranai." The well never sleeps. Just before the video ended, a soft child's laugh whispered through the static. "Greater than, I've woken again." And then, darkness. The forest stands silent now. The rivers have calmed. The well is sealed once more. But every few decades, the mist returns, soft, blue, and breathing. Those who wandered too close claim to see ripples in the air. Reflections that move when they do not. The villagers have a saying. The water never forgets. And if you ever hear laughter in the rain, don't look down.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.